Don't tell them. Whatever it is you are getting ready to announce this week, the decision, the door, the thing God finally said to you at 2 in the morning, don't. Not yet. Close your mouth over it and let me talk to you for a few minutes before you do something that costs you the next 2 years. Chosen one. Listen to me carefully, because this is not a message about secrecy for the sake of secrecy. There is nothing holy about being mysterious. This is a message about what noise does to something that is still soft. My name is George, and I have watched this happen so many times that I can now see it coming before the person opens their mouth. They get the word, the real one, the unmistakable one, and within a week, they have told 9 people, changed the name on their profile, made the announcement, gathered a small crowd around a thing that had no roots yet, and then I watched them spend the next year defending a promise instead of carrying it. The word doesn't fail. They just spend all the strength meant for the building on the explaining, and I want to deal with that number in the title before we go one step further. Because I am not going to build a message on a number I can't back up. I did not count anybody. Nobody has counted. There is no ledger of 99 failures and 1 survivor, and if I told you there was, I would be lying to you inside a message about honesty. That number is not a measurement. It is a description of a pattern old enough to be in Scripture, and common enough that you have watched it in your own family. Loud starts, quiet endings. The pattern is real, even when the arithmetic is invented. So here is the picture I want in your head for the rest of this message. Hold on to it, because everything I say from here hangs on it. When Solomon built the house of God, there is one detail written about the construction that almost nobody preaches, and it is the strangest sentence in the whole account. The stone was made ready before it was brought there, so that there was neither hammer nor axe nor any tool of iron heard in the house while it was being built. Think about that for a second. The largest construction project in Israel's history. Thousands of workers, cedar and gold and stone the size of rooms. And if you had walked onto that site on a Tuesday afternoon, you would have heard almost nothing. No hammering, no chisels, no iron ringing off rock, just men lifting, and stone settling into stone. Because all the cutting happened somewhere else, miles away, down in the quarry, in the dust and the heat, out of sight of the city. That's where the noise was. That's where the hammering was. That's where a block of raw rock lost everything that did not fit the plan, one strike at a time, with nobody watching and nobody applauding. And by the time that stone was carried up the hill and set in the wall of the house of God, it was silent. It went in without a sound, because everything that needed to come off had already come off in a place nobody visits. That is where you are right now. You think you're being overlooked. You're in the quarry. And what's happening to you is not damage, it's dimension. God is taking off the parts that would have kept you from fitting where He is about to set you, and He is doing it in a place where nobody can see, on purpose, because the removal was never meant to be a performance. So the 10 things I'm about to give you are not 10 things to announce. They're 10 things to take off, quietly, in the quarry. This week, without a single post, without a single explanation, without one person knowing you did it. The first thing you eliminate is the announcement itself. I told you not to tell them, and now I'll tell you why, with a man who did the right thing in the dark. Gideon was told to tear down his father's altar to Baal. Not to protest it, not to preach against it, to physically pull it apart and build a proper altar in its place. And Scripture tells us plainly that he did it, but he did it by night, because he was afraid of his father's household and the men of the city. Now we read that as cowardice. Heaven didn't. God never rebuked him for the hour he chose. The altar came down. That's what was asked. And by morning the whole town was standing around the rubble asking who did this, and the work was already finished and could not be undone. That's the model. Do the thing at night. Let them find the rubble in the morning. Because here's what most people miss: announcing it early feels like commitment. But it's actually insurance. When you tell 12 people you're going to do it, you get the emotional payment for doing it before you've done anything. The congratulations arrive first, and something in you quietly settles, because you already got paid. Take that off. Do it in the dark. Let the results introduce you. The second thing you eliminate is the one person you're still building this for. There is a name attached to your calling that doesn't belong there. Maybe it's a father who never said the sentence you needed. Maybe it's the ex who told you you'd never amount to anything. And every good thing you've built since has secretly been addressed to them like a letter you'll never mail. Maybe it's a room of people from a church you left. Saul lost a kingdom over this, and he confessed it in one honest sentence when Samuel confronted him. I feared the people and obeyed their voice. Not I feared God, not I misunderstood. I feared the people. The most powerful man in the nation was being operated by the opinion of a crowd, and the crowd never even knew they were holding the controls. Here's the test. Imagine the thing God called you to succeeds completely, and that one person never hears about it, never knows, dies without ever finding out. If that thought takes the air out of it, they're not a spectator, they're the client. And you're not building a house for God, you're building an argument for them. Cut the name off the blueprint. Quietly, they never need to know they were removed. The third thing you eliminate is the defense speech. You have one. You've rehearsed it. It's the paragraph you would say if they ever confronted you about the way you've changed, about the friends you don't see anymore, about why you left the group, about the tears at the sink on a Wednesday. There's a woman in Shiloh who teaches me more about this than anyone. Hannah went up to the house of the Lord year after year, with a grief in her that had no bottom. She could not have a child, and the other woman in her household provoked her about it deliberately, sharpening the wound every single year until Hannah wept and could not eat. And that year she went into the temple and prayed with her lips moving, and no sound coming out. And the priest, the one man who should have recognized what he was looking at, decided she was drunk and told her to put away her wine. Watch what she does. She gives him one sentence of correction: I am a woman of a sorrowful spirit. I have poured out my soul before the Lord, and then she stops. She doesn't argue her theology. She doesn't list her years. She takes his blessing, goes out, eats her food, and Scripture says her face was no longer sad. She ate before anything changed. The circumstances were identical. The womb was still closed, but the defense was over, and so was the starving. And listen, I need to say something here, because I've walked with enough people to know who's listening. If you're not eating has stopped being a season of grief and become the shape of your week. If you're not sleeping, if the weight is coming off, and you didn't decide that, if the thoughts have gotten dark and stayed there, that is not a spiritual assignment to carry silently in the quarry. Hannah had a priest and a husband. Elijah got bread and sleep from an angel before he ever got a word. Talk to a doctor. Talk to a counselor. Talk to someone in your life who has proven they can be trusted with you. God is not embarrassed by a person who needs help. And there is nothing about this message that says otherwise. But the defense speech, the paragraph you've polished for the trial that isn't coming, take that off. You are not required to be understood. You're required to be faithful. The fourth thing you eliminate is the courtroom in your head at midnight. This one is close to the last one, but it's different, because this one has no audience at all. It's 11:40 at night. The house is quiet. And you're arguing with somebody who is asleep 4 states away and hasn't thought about you in 11 months. You're delivering closing arguments in a case that was dismissed years ago, and you wake up tired and you can't figure out why. Because you did nothing yesterday except carry a dead conversation around like a bag of stones. I think of a warehouse shift supervisor in Toledo I sat with once who told me he hadn't had a real thought of his own after 10 p.m. In 3 years. Every night, the same conversation with a brother who cut him off. He'd win the argument every single time. And every morning, he'd wake up, having lost. Here is the thing about the quarry: the stone doesn't fight the chisel. It just lets go of what's coming off. Every hour you spend prosecuting someone is an hour of your strength delivered to the person who hurt you, for free, with no return. Take it off. Not by forgiving them in a ceremony, just by refusing to hold court. When the case reopens at midnight, say out loud, "Not tonight." And then say the name of the Lord until the room changes. That's it. That's the whole practice. It works because it starves the thing. The 5th thing you eliminate is the exit you left unlocked. There's a door you've kept slightly open. You know the one. The number you never deleted. The apartment lease you kept month to month. The old career you could go back to if this faith thing stops making sense. The relationship you technically ended, but keep warm with a reaction to a post every few weeks. Just so the ember stays alive, in case obedience turns out to be too expensive. Elisha understood the price of that door, and he settled it in one afternoon. When the mantle fell on him, he was plowing with 12 yoke of oxen, a wealthy man's field, a secure life, a family business. And he asked for one thing: "Let me kiss my father and mother goodbye." Then he went back, and he killed the oxen, and he burned the plow, and he cooked the meat over the fire made from his own equipment and fed it to the people. He didn't lease the farm. He didn't hire a manager. He ate his own retirement plan in front of witnesses and walked away. Not because burning things is holy, because a man who can go back will go back on the hardest day. You don't have to burn anything publicly. That's the whole point of this message. But somewhere this week there is a door you know about, and God knows about, and nobody else does. Close it. Say nothing. And then watch what happens to your prayer life. When there is no plan B underneath it, absorbing all your faith. The 6th thing you eliminate is the name you've agreed to. Somebody handed you a word about yourself a long time ago, and you signed for it. Too much. Too sensitive. The dramatic one. The difficult one. The one who can't hold anything together, and you've been introducing yourself with that word ever since, sometimes out loud as a joke, mostly just in the silence of your own head when you decide in advance what you're not capable of. Gideon again, because heaven's version of him arrived before he did. The angel found him threshing wheat in a wine press, hiding from an army, doing farm work in a hole in the ground, so the enemy wouldn't see the dust rise. And the first words out of heaven's mouth were, "The Lord is with thee, thou mighty man of valor." Mighty man of valor. Said to a man crouching in a wine press. God was not flattering him. God was not describing what he saw. God was announcing what he was about to make, using a name that had no evidence behind it yet. So here's the quiet elimination. Take one word you have been using about yourself, and stop using it. Don't explain to anyone that you stopped. Don't make a declaration about it. Just refuse to say it, out loud or inside. And let the empty space sit there uncomfortable for a few weeks, until God fills it with the name he's been using for you the whole time. I'll tell you why I can talk about the quarry with any authority at all. There were 3 years of my life when nobody knew what I was doing. Not my closest friends, not the men I had served beside for a decade. I was studying, praying, writing, sitting with people whose names I will never say on a screen, and if you had asked anybody in my life what George was up to in that stretch, they would have told you honestly that he had gone quiet and probably lost his way. I let them think it. That was the hardest part. Not the work. Being misread while doing the work. And every single thing I am able to hand you now was cut out of me in those years. In the dust, with nobody watching. So when I tell you that the silence is not your punishment, I am not guessing at it. The calling is wide. The instructions reach only a few. If there is a burning in your spirit right now, do not minimize it. That is the sign. The secret protocol delivers the 7 keys God reserved for those who are ready to unlock what was sealed inside them before birth. The full audiobook is included to absorb in depth, in your own time, in the presence of God, and the Awakening Map, the bonus guide that reveals the 5 stages of spiritual awakening and positions you with precision at the exact point of your journey today. Link pinned in the first comment. For a limited time, only because not every door stays open forever. Now the last 4, because these are the ones that separate the people who talk about a calling from the people who end up carrying one. The 7th thing you eliminate is the scoreboard. You know exactly where everyone else is. That's the problem. You know who got the house. You know whose ministry took off. You know which cousin is engaged and which one bought the truck. You have a running tally in your chest that updates every time your thumb moves, and every update quietly resentences you to being behind. Martha had the same disease in a kitchen with the Lord himself, sitting 20 feet away. She was serving, genuinely serving, doing necessary work. Work that fed everyone in the room, and she could not do it. Because she could see her sister sitting on the floor at his feet, doing nothing. And the complaint she brought wasn't even to Mary. It was to Jesus. Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to serve alone? Tell her to help me. The comparison didn't just steal her peace. It turned her into a person who wanted the Lord to interrupt somebody else's worship for the sake of her schedule. Here's what most people miss about a scoreboard. It doesn't only make you sad about your own race. It makes you resent the runners, and resentment is heavy, and you cannot climb a hill carrying it. Take it off quietly. That means an unfollow nobody gets notified about. It means you stop checking a certain profile on Sunday nights. Not because they're bad, because you can't see them and see God clearly at the same time yet, and honesty about that is the most mature thing you'll do this month. The 8th thing you eliminate is your contempt for the small day. There's a sentence in Zechariah that reads like a question, but lands like a rebuke. Who hath despised the day of small things? It was spoken to people rebuilding a temple that was so much smaller than the first one, that when the foundation was laid, the old men who remembered the original wept out loud, while the young men shouted for joy. And the noise of the weeping and the noise of the celebration were so mixed together that nobody standing outside could tell which was which. That's your life right now. 2 sounds at the same time. Something real is being rebuilt, and part of you is grieving how small it looks next to what you imagined. I'm thinking of a hospice nurse in Bakersfield who told me she felt guilty for how little her life amounted to 13-hour shifts, and mostly she just sat with people, held hands, changed a sheet, prayed with somebody's daughter in a hallway at 4 in the morning. She said, "George, I'm not doing anything." And I asked her how many people had left this world with her voice as one of the last things they heard. She stopped counting somewhere past 200. The small day is not the delay before the calling. Very often it is the calling, wearing work clothes. Take the contempt off. You don't have to announce that you've made peace with your season. Just stop apologizing for it in every conversation. and see how much energy comes back. The ninth thing you eliminate is the escape prayer. And I have to be honest with you about this one, because I lived on the wrong side of it longer than I like to admit. There were about 11 months of my life when every prayer I prayed was a request for evacuation. Get me out of this house. Get me out of this job. Move this person. Change this situation. I prayed it in the truck. I prayed it in parking lots. I prayed it with my hand on the doorknob before I went inside at night. And I called it faith, because I put a verse on the end of it. It wasn't faith. It was flight with a Bible verse stapled to it. And here's what I finally understood. God kept not answering, not because he was ignoring me, but because the answer I was asking for would have ended the only training that was ever going to qualify me for what I'm doing right now. He was not going to airlift me out of the quarry. The quarry was the appointment. Habakkuk did something I still think about. He asked God a question so hard it bordered on accusation. How long do I cry out and you don't hear? And then he did the strangest thing. He said, I will stand upon my watch, and set me upon the tower, and will watch to see what he will say unto me. He didn't leave. He climbed higher inside the same location and waited for the answer, where he stood. Take the escape prayer off. Not the honesty, keep the honesty. God can handle the accusation. But stop asking for the exit, and start asking for the eyes. What are you making in me here that you could not make in me anywhere else? That prayer gets answered almost every time, and usually fast. And the 10th thing you eliminate is the deadline. You gave God a date. Maybe you never said it out loud, but it's in there. By 35, by the end of this year, before my mother dies, before that anniversary comes around again. And every day that passes without the thing happening, a small verdict gets filed inside you, he's not going to do it. Which means you approach the next prayer with slightly less voltage than the last, and the erosion is so slow, you don't notice you've stopped believing until you catch yourself talking about it in the past tense. The rest of that word to Habakkuk was the answer to this exact wound. The vision is yet for an appointed time. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come, it will not tarry. Read that carefully, because it looks like a contradiction, and it isn't. Though it tarry from where you're standing, it's late. It will not tarry from where God is standing, it's not late at all. Both are true. The delay is real to you and non-existent to him. And the whole discipline of faith is living inside that gap without going numb. Your calendar is not prophecy. Take it off. Quietly. Nobody has to know you released the date, but you'll know, because the panic goes out of your prayers within a week. So there they are. 10 things, and not one of them requires a witness. Nobody applauds an unfollow. Nobody throws a party because you stopped arguing with your brother at midnight. There is no ceremony for the moment you take somebody's name off your blueprint. All 10 of these happen in the dark, in the dust, miles from the city, and every one of them takes something off you that would have kept you from fitting where you're going. And I want to leave you with the man who did all of this without ever making a single announcement, because his story ends in a place nobody expects. Nicodemus came to Jesus at night. We've mocked that man for 2,000 years for it. Too afraid to be seen, a member of the ruling council sneaking through Jerusalem in the dark to ask questions he couldn't ask in daylight. And you know what happened in that night conversation? He got the sentence the entire modern church is built on. You must be born again. The most quoted words about salvation on the planet were given to a man who came in secret. He didn't post about it. He went home, and for 3 years he said almost nothing, one careful sentence in a council meeting, defending due process. And they shut him down. Then Jesus died. And every loud man in the story ran. The ones who swore in public. The ones who declared their loyalty at the table. The ones who had announced everything they scattered. And Nicodemus walked up the hill in broad daylight, in front of everyone he had spent his whole life being careful around, carrying 75 pounds of myrrh and aloes on his back to bury a man the council had just executed. 75 pounds. That's a burial for a king. He'd been buying it. Somewhere in those 3 quiet years, that man had been preparing for a day he never told a soul about. That is what the quarry produces. Before you go, and this matters to me, so don't scroll past it, I want you to leave 2 things in the comments. The number of the one that hit you hardest, and then the sentence you were planning to say out loud this week that you're now going to keep to yourself instead. Just the sentence. You don't have to explain it. Somebody is going to scroll down, read yours, and finally close a door they've been holding open for years. The stones in that wall never made a sound going in. The house went up in silence, and the glory came down on it anyway. Go do your cutting where nobody can hear it. And remember, everything I spoke about goes deeper inside the secret protocol. Pinned in the first comment, the 7 keys, the audiobook, and the awakening map are there waiting for you whenever you're ready to take the next step.